Hello and welcome everyone to the Smart Living session at the PropTech Innovation Summit. My name is Kristen Zupancic and I'm the Trend and Innovation Analyst at the class of 2020. I will be your moderator today, reporting live from my living room here in Amsterdam. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the class of 2020, we are a European think tank shaping the future of living, working, and learning in university cities, along with our community of thought leaders. We are fascinated by this digital shift in real estate. And so as you can imagine, we were thrilled when our partners at Union Investment reached out to us and invited us for this opportunity. So over the past few years, we've actually been exploring this blended future paradigm where living, working, learning are becoming increasingly blurred. And I think we can pretty much all agree this could not be more true to life right now. The definition of home is evolving. And now with COVID in the picture, it's moving fast and with an added layer of health and safety concerns. PropTech can provide a range of opportunities for real estate developers and operators to not only future-proof their product, but also maximize the use and value of their space. So in today's session, we'll be hearing from the PropTech Innovation Award winners from the Smart Living category, as well as Union Investment. And also we have a chat box. It's being monitored by my colleague, Tim. Are you there, Tim?
Certainly. Hi guys, okay. Welcome.
Lovely. And so if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll address it when the time is right. So to begin, and since we have limited time today, I'm going to ask each panelist to introduce themselves and their company in 30 seconds. I know it's short, but I know you can do it. So let's start with George.
Hi everyone, my name is George. I'm part of the institutional fund management team of Union Investment. Union Investment is one of the leading asset managers in Germany as well as Europe. We have currently roughly 359 billion of assets under management. And together with my colleagues, I've set up Union Investment's first micro living fund back in 2017. This is a fund which purely invests in micro living products in Germany as well as in Europe. We have so far acquired 7 properties. I'm looking forward to build up the portfolio even more in the future. We have already started to work together with startups, and we clearly see the benefits of digital solutions in managing our micro living products. And that's particularly the reason why I am very much interested and looking forward to our discussion today.
Great, thank you, George. John, let's move on to you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name is John. I'm CEO and co-founder of Room Estate. Room Estate is at the moment the biggest co-living provider in Switzerland. We are currently expanding into the French part here in Switzerland, which is almost like going to another country, and to Germany, and looking forward to go to whole Europe in the future. What's special about us? We are doing everything technology approached. So we're building our services, our whole living concept based on technology, connecting it to the building, to home services, but especially also to the community, which is the core part of co-living itself. And that's basically it about us.
Great, thank you. Julian.
Yes, thanks. I'm Julian from one of the co-founders of Comydo, and we offer digital access management based on QR codes. And our first use case, which we tackled, was how to get the delivery guy, the parcel delivery guy, into the entrance hall of apartment buildings. And what we do is we turn parcels into temporary keys. We are hooked up to all major logistic carriers, and we get the track and trace data from them, and we can check if a parcel is labeled as in delivery, and if so, we open up the front door. So we developed a hardware device. It's basically a barcode scanner with internet connectivity, and we implemented the whole access management platform on our own.
Lovely, thank you. Tom, go for it.
Hi everybody, my name's Tom. I'm the founder and CEO of askporter. So askporter, in essence, is an AI management platform for property and facilities. Just as a kind of real quick overview of what that means, we really focus. So to be clear, there is a digital assistant, much like Google Assistant or someone like that. And it's the job of this digital assistant to provide kind of really high value tenant experiences to people in buildings living and working. But the real core bit of what we do in the platform at the back end is really taking those interactions, so those kind of tenant inquiries, reactive maintenance, all these interactions that you have in a building, and really driving them down to resolution. So our digital assistant doesn't just liaise with the occupants of buildings. It's the job of our digital assistant to really liaise with and interface with all the suppliers, making sure the suppliers are on site, checking back in with them to make sure that the work's been done to spec. Going back to the, obviously, in the case of reactive maintenance, to check back in with the original occupant who reported the issue, and really automating as much of that transactional part of property management as we can, really saving for kind of for high value human to human time.
Great, thank you. So to just get right into it, and as a bit of an introduction to the topic itself, for those of you who are unaware, the Smart Living category is actually brand new to the Innovation Summit this year. So my question will start with George. What exactly is Smart Living, and what was the motivation to launch this new category this year?
So Smart Living basically for me means to deliver a product to our tenants, to our customers, which satisfies their needs. So what do our customers need? They need a space for a limited period of time, which they can call basically their home. This space needs to be flexible, it needs to be safe and easily accessible. And in addition to that, we need to give the tenant the possibility to communicate with each other. Our tenants, they want to build up networks, they want to be able to communicate with each other, start friendships within a limited period of time. And putting these aspects together, so the availability of space plus communication, and all of this combined in one or maybe several digital solutions, means for me Smart Living.
Right. You're talking about this flexibility, and we're seeing, of course, this lifestyle shift, and with it comes new opportunities in the living sector. So when we talk about demand and investment, could you maybe tell us a little more? What impact do you expect COVID to have both on the rental and investor demand for micro and shared living products?
Yes, of course. So, I mean, right now we are still a little bit at the beginning of analyzing the impact of this crisis. So it is not yet 100% clear what the impact will be, of course. What we can see from a demand side, obviously all these like travel bans have a negative impact on the demand side. People are not able to travel to our properties, so that means demand goes down. At the same time, what you see is rental levels are not at zero, they're also not at 50%. And this is in line also with other operators which we are talking to. Occupancy goes down maybe 20–30%. That's approximately the average. So there's a negative impact on the demand side right now, but yeah, we expect that to go back to normal levels within the immediate time. This will not happen instantly. So even if travel bans are over, people can travel. This will take a little bit more time. But then in the mid-run, let's say in 1 year, maybe maximum 2 years, we expect occupancy levels being at the same level where they have been before the crisis. If we look on the investor demand for micro-living products, one can clearly see that micro-living is a very resilient asset class. So it is maybe even more resilient than office space. It definitely is more resilient than shopping, for example, more resilient than a pure hospitality like hotels, because we still have occupancy. All our properties are still open. So they still deliver a cash flow, ongoing cash flow. So, and I think investors do see this, and they will consider this going forward in their decision of in which kind of asset class they want to invest. And therefore, I believe that any kind of residential product, and we consider micro-living being part of the residential asset class, will benefit, actually.
Right. And going, I guess, from the investor perspective again, how, actually, I'll pass this on to one of the PropTechs, John. How are real estate investors responding to PropTech? Do they see it as a necessity or more of an add-on?
Well, at the moment, we can definitely see that there is, yeah, let's say less investing. So I got that from the branch. We're pretty good connected to Swiss PropTech, for example, and I heard from a lot of cases that are hesitating at the moment, which I think is mostly a shock at the moment and not really a trend. So when I would also come back to that and say, like, maybe this year could be hard to raise money for some, but I definitely, or most of the people, see the necessity, just because I think the real estate branch is one of those parts of the economy that is the least digitalized, the least evolved in this technology. And it's also not that easy to find scalable models here. So I think the investments will definitely increase. That's a kind of a long-term trend here.
Tom, have you noticed a difference there? Or have you seen the different side of the spectrum, or?
I mean, so our kind of target clients are enterprise asset owners, asset managers. We and facility managers as well. So we've seen. I think what's been interesting, obviously, in our forecasts that we share with our investors, has COVID's obviously had an impact in terms of primarily the clients that were close to the end of the pipeline have basically gone into deep freeze, or certainly did probably about 2 months ago. So what we are now seeing is a real opportunity, and we're starting to kind of already this week has been multiple times more busy than the previous kind of couple of months, and really, like, there's been a huge uptick in terms of outreach from all the clients that perhaps have been pedaling towards the end of our sales funnel. People kind of reticent to kind of to really put their foot in the water in terms of making the investment in tech change, in deployment, etc. Suddenly, all of a sudden, in the last week, people are starting to come out of that and go, actually, you know what? Look, we realised that with COVID, it's highlighted a number of issues in our company, and it's shaken them out from very much from business as usual. So suddenly they've gone, actually, we can't keep operating like the way we have. We need to be more remote. We need to be able to offer flexible, flexible services for people. We need our team to be able to offer that. And we also, there's a lot of areas of our company that are very inefficient, and we need to be able to do more with less resources, whilst also, improving those customer service levels, because people are working remote, because of all of that stuff, right? All of a sudden, those tools that you used to, face-to-face communication, certainly with concierges, etc., can plaster over a lot of gaps. It can say, oh, it's fine, I know Dave, I like Dave, I speak to him, I'm not going to be annoyed at the fact that my maintenance hasn't been solved for X period of time. Suddenly, when you're remote, you don't have that kind of dialogue. So really good, efficient communication and tools are definitely hot on the agenda right now for us, and we're shielding a lot of inbounds. So.
Right. I mean, it's interesting to hear both sides here, because at least from a student accommodation perspective, in our most recent student accommodation sentiment survey I have here, we revealed that 49% of respondents said investment in PropTech is likely or very likely to increase. So a significant number coming from the student accommodation side. So gives us great reason to expect this growing future. When we're talking about increasing efficiencies, and of course now with COVID in the picture, that has escalated even more. At the class of 2020, we're reading a lot about how COVID has changed the real estate industry forever, really. So we're seeing, touchless technology coming to the forefront, rethinking spatial design, more community apps, virtual reality tours, and so on. So Julian, I'd love if you can tell us a bit more, how is Comydo resistant to the effects of COVID in living models?
Yes, there are actually two aspects. One aspect is we work completely touchless, and that's a big plus right now because our reading device has a reading distance from about 15 to 20 centimeters. You don't have to touch anything. You just present something, a parcel or your smartphone with a QR code on it, and that's it. So not having to touch something is definitely a big plus during COVID-19. The other aspect is that delivery concepts are really in focus right now. People were not able to go shopping, for example. They ordered all this stuff online. And what happened is delivery guys dropped shipments without asking for signatures. And that's also a big advantage when you have Comydo on your door. So they can scan the parcel, they just drop it and they are out. You don't meet people physically. You just order the stuff and you receive it right at the front of your door. It couldn't be more easy, more comfortable for the tenants of a building. So there are certain advantages. At the same time, when we have difficulties to address our customers, because I see a big lack in digitalization in the professional housing industry here in Germany, especially because decision makers are hard to reach out for. So they are in their home office right now, and it seems to be very difficult just to forward a call, for example, because they don't have the possibilities. So you get different numbers, you are asked to call again, for example, and it's way harder during COVID-19 than before. So that's what we experienced. So there are two sides of the matter.
Right. Tom, coming from askporter's perspective, how were you already ahead of the game, or not, in light of COVID, in terms of operational excellence in the situation?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess internally as a company, we've always been kind of operating remotely. A lot of our team is remote, so from that side of things, it has been very much, from our side internally, it's been very much business as usual. I think from our clients' perspective, it's been interesting. So there's a number of clients that we signed up, Transport of London, for example, being one of them. So they have a lot of assets around London, one of the largest asset owners. We kind of just kicked off a project with them, and that proved relatively difficult. I think not from our side so much, but certainly in the way that their teams were set up, and they were able to manage things like workshops, things like this, for example, proved a little bit more challenging, should we say? I think what we have found is co-creation has been a little bit more difficult. So you've had to be really prepared and really switched on whenever you do these projects, and to know exactly what you want out of a call or a session or a workshop, a little more so than I guess previously. But certainly, I think our proposition is kind of primed. Certainly for this, we're saying a lot of. I think what's interesting is before this, we got a lot of people saying, I don't want any kind of digital assistant. I don't want a chatbot. I don't want to automate any of this kind of back end office stuff. We rely on human touch. We rely on this, and we've always been saying it's not about that. What it is about that low value stuff. The checking back in with the supplier, the checking back in to make sure they're happy. All this low value transactional stuff. Get rid of that, because that's the bit that everything falls down. And if any element of that logistical chain falls down, you end up with unhappy tenants, you end up with unhappy residents, because stuff's not being communicated, it's not being done efficiently. So really, the more we can kind of remove that, kind of automate it intelligently, smart, so there's less friction there, then we're kind of primed for this post-COVID world, I guess. So in that respect, our product we're lucky, I guess, that we're kind of fitting that the post-COVID world.
Right. I mean, I think people, from what we've been hearing with our partners, people are more, engaged in the apps to streamline building efficiency. My question for John, since you come from both providing the room as well as providing the PropTech, so you have your hand in both sides here. How has COVID made you rethink your product offerings? What is needed to shift, if any?
Well, I would say it just gave us a bit of more effort in going into the digitalization. So basically, when we started, we were not a PropTech at all. We were a room provider, and that is basically where we come from. And we soon saw in 2017 that the future is online, even though our product is physical. And I think we are set up quite well because our customer base is quite young. We target young professionals between 20 and 35. And they actually expect us to have everything online. So just recently had a tenant that had to send in the termination by a letter, right? Because that's in Switzerland how you have to do it. And well, they were pretty upset, even though we cannot do anything about it, right? And I think this COVID crisis just showed me that that we were on the right path, just need to be even faster. Because we already developed a whole process, not having contact like physically with the customer. So I think we're trying to virtualize the whole connection to them on the phone. If you have like right now, we're talking through the computer, right? So all of that to bring that a bit more into focus. And I think this COVID situation just will lead to much more acceptance in that, and people are less and less willing to go and have a physical viewing because we have now integrated everything virtually. So I think we're there on the right path. It just gave me the confirmation that we should even do it faster. And right now we're investing quite hard in that. More than half of our employees are basically engineers just working the whole day on improving our processes and products in addition. So yeah, there's not a real pivot here or something. I think because we were already set up like that, it's just a confirmation that we're on the right thing. And I think I see that now with every PropTech doing the right thing. And every bigger company should consider working closer and definitely maybe doing some things on their own.
Right, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think it's really important to talk about collaboration. Tom, you also mentioned co-creation. We're seeing now more than ever the importance of collaboration in our industry. So maybe Julian, you can start. How are you collaborating with other PropTechs as well as real estate operators and developers?
What we offer is a part of a solution. So we offer access management, and when it comes to parcel deliveries, for example, that's not the whole story. In many cases, you also want parcel lockers, for example, or drop-off points where you can deposit the parcel for the tenants. And there are a lot of companies offering these solutions. And of course, we cooperate with them because we offer cool products that fit perfectly together. Or another example where we cooperate with other startups is when it comes to guest management in the professional and the business field. So when somebody invites a guest to a company's premise, they would like to offer an access code, for example, to pass the first speed gate. So what we do is we offer access management, and they offer the booking platform, the invitation platform, the management platform in the background. And our part then is just to gather the information with our scanners and hand the information over via our backend to their API, and they can implement their own business logic. Where we operate with, cooperate with larger companies, for example, we have another use case where we deal with truck parking. It's something totally different, but again, it's temporary access management. People need temporary access to different premises. In this case, then we are talking about truckers who need a place to stay during nighttime. And we are working with an insurance company, and they offer kind of Airbnb for truckers. You have a lot of areas of parking lots near the highway, which are not used during nighttime. And at the same time, you see the truckers don't find a place where to stay during nighttime. So they offer a booking platform. And again, we offer access management. So we have both corporations with startups and with larger companies. And of course, when we're talking about parcel deliveries, we are cooperating with all major carriers, and we need access to their APIs. Of course, it's not that easy to manage these corporations because especially when you're a young startup, it's difficult to find the right decision makers who offer you access to an API. It might be very easy for them, but still they hesitate because they think you are not worth the effort. You're too young, and nobody knows if you're still there 2 years from now. So that's always a problem at the beginning. But once you manage to have to get these corporations, you have a big plus.
Great, thank you. Tom, do you want to elaborate? Have you done any recent collaborations with PropTech, or is it directly just with the real estate operators and developers?
Yeah, sure. So I can touch on both of them. I think historically for us, kind of right at the beginning, scaling was actually pretty hard. We kind of wanted a very simple product, a very MVP product, and we found very early on the connectivity in the sector was pretty woeful. But I think 3 years down the line, that's definitely changing. It's fantastic to see other kind of, I guess, more incumbent, shall we say, property tech platforms to be embracing startups and embracing connectivity without necessarily charging you 50 grand in order to integrate with their API. I think that's a change that we've been seeing. That certainly these companies are starting to value the collaboration, and in fact, actually, the more that they can integrate with startups that are delivering value for the end client, the more valuable it makes their proposition. And yeah, to that, we've actually one of our partners and investors, we've actually drawn up a list of all the CRM systems, etc., that they use, for example, and we've started now approaching them saying, look, it'd be really helpful if we had this integration because this client would benefit from using us and you. And we've actually found that's worked really, really well, and people pretty receptive to that. I think from kind of, other than working with other startups, I think what we found incredibly valuable, and it's kind of a no-brainer, but I think the industry is kind of starting to wake up to that, is saying, look, rather than we just sell you a product here, it's much better if we we work together to sell you our product that then delivers a solution specifically for you. And I think that's the key. It's very easy to get, as a startup, to get sold on your product that you're selling and not really the end solution for the customer. So we've had some absolutely great collaborations. Our investor and our client, Weissag, so they're facility manager across Germany. We've been working really closely to develop a solution for them, and we've also been working very closely with one of the UK's largest energy suppliers, and they also do maintenance services as well, to develop a solution for actually 500,000 of their landlord customers as well. So we found that co-creation role actually works really, really well for us. And it's better for those guys, because rather than you've got two options, right? You either work for a startup that knows the sector and knows the vertical and knows exactly what they're doing, and to help you solve that problem, or alternatively, you go to a development agency that's going to charge you 4 times what we're going to charge you, build your own system, have to update it, and it's going to suck. So that's the choice.
Right. So you're making it customizable. And so are you saying that you focus more on the product and service benefits over the value it creates for customers when trying to attract investors?
I'm saying, yeah. So I'm saying we've got a product, but it's really important to frame that product and not get too kind of gung ho. Take that product, take it. It's really about working how that product actually solves their problem, because certainly lots of real estate companies, even though you're solving one specific part of the problem for them, and you're doing it, let's say you're doing it really, really well, you're solving it really well, the commercial realities for them are that actually, oh, well, fine, you're solving that part, but now I have to train my staff on how to use your platform. I also have to work on how I'm going to integrate that product into the rest of my technology stack. So it's actually not as straightforward as just going, look, we've got this product, it works. It's like, oh, how is it going to work for us? So there's a lot of other considerations. So it's really important to work together on that, so I think.
Great, thank you. George, coming from your background, when investing in build-to-rent products, how early do investors and developers plan in the use of PropTech and the concept of smart living in general?
Oh, that highly differs, actually. It really differs on the developer who's developing that particular asset. You see developers, I don't know, they come from different background. They, I don't know, maybe they did residential products before. Maybe they did some kind of, I don't know, senior living products before. Now they want to turn to student housing. But you also have developers there which have a clear concept. You know, these are usually developers who have their own brand, maybe their own student housing brand or their own micro living brand in general, and they include digital solutions from the beginning. You know, they have their own operating concept. They will have their own app for the tenants, and they have a really clear concept. And this is not only limited to the digital solution, but also to the concept of the whole building. You know, so they have a clear understanding what the common areas have to look like, how you have to build this whole property in order that it's attracting to tenants. So it really differs. So I guess there's still this industry, this real estate industry, especially project developers, they still need to learn. Some already have a very good understanding, others not, and they will definitely need to, I don't know, get up to speed in order also for us as an investor be able to, I don't know, to buy a property, because in the end we are also dependent on these project developers that they deliver a good product to us. And my expectation, my hope is that some of the developers will learn, maybe with the help of PropTech also, to deliver a good, maybe better product than it has been in the past.
Right. So basically increase this communication possibly between the two groups is what I'm getting from that. Yeah, great. And sort of increase the education side of it as well.
Sorry, I didn't get the last one.
To increase, I guess, educating the operator about the product so that they can basically use it pretty seamlessly. Definitely.
Developers need to understand the operating model. I mean, in the end, micro living, student living, whatever you want to call it, is an operating real estate, and a very important part of operating this real estate is more and more digital, right? So you need to have a good operating platform. You need to have a good booking platform. You need to have all kind of aspects, 3D visits. You have to have a digital rental agreement process. You know that nobody needs to send actual rental agreements by post, so this all can be made purely digital, that people can communicate with a landlord very instantly, very easily, that they can communicate with each other. So this all needs to fit together, right? And of course, you can always, after you acquire the property, like put some kind of digital solution on top of that. But of course, it is a much better product in the end if you consider this whole process from the beginning.
Right. What are any limitations that you're seeing in terms of PropTech in the living space? I know there's often a lot of criticism regarding Big Brother and collecting data. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't see any board on that, actually. I mean, of course, there's a basis, right? And the basis is real estate. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So.
Okay, sorry. So no, what I just want to try to explain is, so there's a basis, right? And this is real estate. So you need to have a good product. You need to have a good value property and a good location. So that is the basis. So this is not something where a digital solution can add value, right? Because this is the basis, which is real estate. But in the end, everything which goes beyond that, I don't see any limitations. So, if it's regarding communication, if it's regarding operating the property, everything which makes life easier for the landlord, for the operator. I don't know. Do you guys see any limit in that? I don't see any. I think we are still very in the beginning of this whole development. In the next years, things will change dramatically. This whole operating concept will change dramatically. And yeah, I'm looking forward actually to see all these developments in the future.
Great, thank you. So just to take it back to the PropTechs, do you agree? Is it limitless?
I think there are certain limitations. I think you have to differentiate between traditional real estate companies and concepts like boarding homes, micro apartments, student accommodation, and stuff like that. Because when we are talking about traditional real estate companies, they tend to hesitate because they don't want to introduce a second brand, as they call it in Germany. So you can't install everything that's good and expensive and make the tenant pay for it afterwards, because they will not like it if they don't benefit directly from it. So that gives you a certain limitation. But especially when it comes to boarding homes, for example, or student accommodations, I think here you have totally different settings where people are more open to technical innovation, for example, and where you don't have to deal with tenants who live there their whole life, and they also know they don't move there for the rest of their life. They will move out after a certain amount of time, so they can change their living model at some point.
Yes.
Any other thoughts there?
Yeah, I would also add something on that. I mean, don't forget that a building is meant to stay on a certain place for around 80 years. That's at least what the scope is in Switzerland. And the issue is, I mean, you can compare it to a car. What if you take a car from the 70s and try to make it self-driving? So there you have on the one hand the technology, but on the other hand you just have an old car, and now it's up to the PropTech actually to find a solution that can be built on this old car. And I agree that for the new buildings, that's definitely one case you have to agree on. But don't forget, in 10 years we're again ahead. You don't know what we will invent in 10 years in the PropTech scene, and now we're building this house, this property. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges every PropTech and every big company should consider. So how can I make it kind of a product that is valuable to the property, even if it's older, even if I do it after building it? And I think that's where we can address the mass. Whereas for the new buildings or the purpose-built buildings, we can definitely play more. And I definitely see no limit there. But don't forget, no matter how digitalized it is, how PropTech it is, at the end it's still a house, and that's, I think, the limit that we have there.
Yeah, I would.
I think.
Oh, sorry, Julian. Yeah, look, I would totally mirror that, and I'd say not only is there kind of inherent friction between the world of property and technology in that respect. Certainly when we talk about the stock, for example, and the kind of how often they how often they're built, and the lifetime of each one of those properties is hard, and we do have to be mindful of retrofitting technology into that. But it's actually not the other thing I would say that limits it is not just the kind of the inherent nature of the asset class itself, but is also very much you have to be. So it's if you're building an app like Deliveroo, right? You know who your target audience is. You know that your target audience is probably going to be between 16 upwards to 40, 50. They're going to be tech savvy. They're all going to have smartphones, and that's fine. That's who you're targeting. So you're building your product for that demographic. With some of our customers, for example, they have a massive demographic. The demographic stretches from 90-year-old people who live at home who have never downloaded an app versus your student that only wants to conduct business via app. So you've got this. It's a very, because people want to live in a home. They don't have a choice. They need to get something fixed, or they need to get something done related to their home. So you cannot tell. It's very hard to tell an 80-year-old woman who's never used or downloaded an app. Oh yeah, it's fine. We're actually not going to be available via post or phone anymore. Download the app. It's not a thing. So there's a lot of, it's an interesting world of PropTech of how to manage that.
But just to add a little bit on that, actually, older elderly people are more and more into using these kind of apps. You know, maybe not 85, but for example, with regard to, we see this asset class, senior living. You know, it's actually it's quite big in some countries like France, for example. It is not as big as or developed, for example, in Germany. But even in such an asset class, which specifically targets elderly people, digital solutions will play a more and more important role. I mean, even you guys, myself, we are getting older, so I don't know. Maybe it takes another 10 years, could be. But I think already now we are at the stage where digital solutions play an important role, even for elderly people. And also wanted to mention is, with regard to the real estate itself, what digital solutions can actually offer is they can make it more flexible, and that is very important for us as an investor. That you, of course, the target group will change in the future because, for example, for demographic reasons, if you have a solution which can help change the use of a property, and this is clearly possible, then this is a huge benefit for us.
Right. I just got a notification that we have a couple questions from the audience. Due to time, we have 3 minutes left. I am actually going to ask those people that asked the questions to remain in the chat, and we will address them by text afterwards, because I have one last question for speakers. I would love to hear them attend. So Tim, we'll get back to them.
Yeah, sounds good. I will.
My question for all speakers is, has to do with the speed. And John, you mentioned about the notion of speed and time. So I want every speaker to think 1 year from now. What does your vision for the future of PropTech in living spaces look like? And you have a minute to respond. So let's start with John.
Okay, sure. I mean, I see us without having a COVID crisis in a year, so that is something I would go for.
Cross fingers for that, yes.
Yeah, but at the end, I just see that the companies are more and more involved. The PropTech scene is growing fast, and I see even small administrations joining more and more on that. So therefore, I see a huge growth within the next year. And that is basically the vision for us, to grow much faster, to bring our services and to connect the tenants much better. And I definitely see that possible in 1 year, and to expand then internationally.
Great, lovely. Julian?
Yes, I also think that PropTech will play an important role, even more important than today, probably. And for me, it's very important that we focus on the needs of the tenants, and then that you offer value to the tenant or the customer at the end. Because mostly we offer access management to reduce management costs for the professional housing industry. That's nice because that sells devices, but in the end, we want to improve the life of the tenants. We want to make it easier to receive parcels, to give flexible access to other people and stuff like that. But you can't sell products with these arguments right now, and I think that's not the way it should be. I would like that or I would imagine that the housing industry cares about their tenants and offers maximum value for them. And that it's not only reducing cost and more efficiency, but also value to the customer, to the tenant at the end.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I think, my point on this would be, I think the big thing in a year, and we've already been seeing it, but I mean, a year's not a horribly long time in this sector, but I think if hopefully everything will start to the conversation will change a little bit, and it'll become a little bit more grown up. I think certainly with the asset, the traditional real estate players and the technology players. I think we have to start, rather than saying, it's not a binary thing. You're either tech or you're real estate or whatever, right? So those conversations, I think, over the next year are going to really start to change with post-COVID, and it's going to be a question of, look, we understand that this sector needs to digitize. We understand that there's a lot of operation and efficiency across the board, and we could be doing things a lot better by leveraging and using technology. And I think that's a conversation that's really happening and changing right now. And I think we're going to see less of the pitching to traditional real estate players of saying, no, look, we've already got a CRM system or whatever. It's really going to be evaluating, actually, how can this tool deliver a real solution for my business, and how can we build our business around the technology, rather than just traditionally what we see is lots of companies not willing, and I understand it, right? It's painful often if you want to actually transition to a technology-based operating model. It's gonna hurt. I mean, we've seen that with COVID. Like, it's not business as usual. You can't just bolt a little bit of tech onto what you're doing and go, cool, look, we're tech now because we have a customer facing app. That's not really what being tech is. Like, you need to build it into the core operating model of your business and how you do business. And I think that's going to change over the next year. I think COVID's probably inspired that. And I think finally, what we're going to see in this somewhere, we're going to start seeing more drive to interoperability of devices and making it very, very, not devices, but also software, tools, everything, and making it very easy for people to switch, pick up, drop tools, and change their technology stack. Because at the moment, it's painful, right? So it's very painful for these companies because their legacy incumbent CRMs that they use or different tools often don't. It's like they're so interwoven with their data sets, with everything, that trying to pull anything away or put something into something else becomes incredibly hard. And even for us as PropTech startups, to get access to that data or share data or be open with that, obviously within GDPR rules, but is very, very hard. So yeah, I think in a year's time we're going to see better interoperability of different software, different solutions, and also the changing of conversation as to how can we build technology into our business rather than how can we look like we're doing innovation by bolting bits on.
Thank you. And George, last but not least.
Yeah, I definitely believe that cooperation, communication between PropTechs and the traditional real estate industry will increase dramatically. It will need to increase dramatically. The whole process of operating micro-living products or basically any kind of real estate product will change dramatically. Booking processes will be much more easier. Operating the properties will be much more easier for the landlord, for the operator. I will either by pushing a button, I will exactly know which are my tenants, which rooms are vacant, which tenant has paid his bills, which not, what are the utility bills of each tenant, and this will just make life easier for everybody, for us as landlords, as well as for the tenants. And obviously, of course, we hope in 12 months from now, COVID crisis will be over, and we'll be back, I don't know, to normal.
Normal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I envision this as completely streamlined vision in real estate. Guys, we are out of time. So I want to say thank you to our speakers, the organizers, and participants in this session. If you had a question that was not answered, I'm sorry we did not get to it live, but we will respond to it in the chat, don't you worry. And we will be sharing the key learnings from today's session at the end of the day at 5:15 in the closing remarks of key learnings. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you at 5:15.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.